Hi, and welcome to the Lazada Sustainability Academy. Through this program, we hope to share with you the necessary knowledge to future proof and transform your businesses sustainably. I'm your host today, Yongxi from Lazada. So, as consumers become more conscious of the sustainability's impact of their purchasing decisions, companies could be facing increasing pressures to build sustainable supply chains. One crucial aspect of achieving sustainability goals is to ensure transparency and traceability throughout the supply chain. Today, we have Greg Sampson with us to explore how product traceability and supply chain transparency could play a role in enhancing opportunities and benefits for your business. Now, Greg is a solutions architect at the International Trade Center, which is a joint agency by the World Trade Organization and the UN to support sustainable and inclusive trade in developing countries. He designs and implements IT solutions that monitor and enhance the sustainability of global value chain, and his forte lies in international trade and the sustainable development. Welcome, Greg, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Yangxi. My pleasure.
So, Greg, let's go on to the first question. What do product traceability and supply chain transparency actually mean? Could you please share it with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are critical topics. In the current landscape of e-commerce, it's important to know that traceability and transparency, they're not just buzzwords. They really are the backbone of sustainability. So to put it in very simple terms, imagine if every product could tell its story, right? Where it comes from, how it was made, and its journey to our hands. But both traceability and supply chain transparency are still a bit different. So let me give you an insight maybe into how they differ. So traceability is really the ability to track the movement of products and their components through all stages of the supply chain. In e-commerce, it means knowing precisely where a product originates, how it was produced, and every step it took until it reached the consumer. For instance, imagine a small online fashion store sourcing organic cotton shirts. Through traceability, they can ensure that the cotton's organic origin, the ethical treatment of farmers, and the eco-friendly manufacturing processes involved. So that's traceability. Now, about supply chain transparency, it's a bit different than just tracing products because it really goes beyond. It's about revealing the entire supply chain from raw material suppliers to manufacturers and distributors. And in the e-commerce spheres, this means disclosing partner processes and practices. So I would really think that in today's age, embracing traceability and supply chain transparency is really a game changer. It ultimately means credibility. So they are core topics.
Great. Thanks for explaining these two terms to us. Now let us maybe bring it closer back to home, right? So in the context of Southeast Asia, what could be some of the current market trends and demands that are actually driving the need for such topics like enhanced product traceability and even supply chain transparency?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in Southeast Asia, modern consumers are much more conscious than ever before about the products they buy, right? They want to know where their products come from, how they were made, and if ethical practices were followed. So this implies that businesses need to provide detailed information about the supply chain, ensuring that consumers have confidence in the products they purchase. So I think consumer awareness is really one of the key factors. Secondly, we are seeing also governments and international bodies that are imposing stricter regulations related to product safety, environmental impact, and fair labor practices. And this is not a trend. This is really going to be increasing more and more through time. So I think regulatory requirements and standards is really a second reason why this is important. Thirdly, I think sustainability. It really comes down once again to sustainability and the expectations that the products, that are produced are environmentally responsible, they support local communities and ensure a fair treatment. And to do this, you need to know the origin and the story behind the product. And I think lastly, one of the other important factors for Southeast Asia is that very often businesses are not competing only locally, they're also competing internationally. And having a transparent supply chain provides a competitive edge. And many international partners and consumers prefer working with businesses that can guarantee the authenticity and quality of their products through transparent sourcing. So I think it's really important to adapt and to adopt, these concepts as early as possible.
So thank you, Greg. Now that we have a better understanding of some of the external expectations, maybe you could also share some of the benefits of adopting these practices on the product and value chain. For example, will it be actually helpful for SMEs to expand their business opportunities by adopting such practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So it might be a bit more work, right, to embed these concepts within your everyday work, but there are some advantages to it, right? And I think some of these advantages are building trusts with customers, something we've discussed already, meeting the consumer demands, which are really important. But embedding those practices within your business means that you will be attractive to new clients, right? Many businesses, especially large corporations, prefer working with suppliers who are transparent, right? And by showcasing this transparency, you become more attractive for partnerships and leading to more clients and collaborations. I think also it's really important to access new markets. It can really open doors to international markets, and many countries, retailers have strict regulations about supply chain transparency, as was discussed earlier. So ultimately, complying to these rules, small businesses can access markets that prioritize transparency and ethical practices. Another important aspect, I would think, would be generally speaking, improving efficiency. Transparency often leads to better supply chain management. And by understanding every step of your process, you can identify inefficiencies, reduce waste, and save costs. So this efficiency not only improves your bottom line, but it also makes your business more competitive. And last but not least, as was also mentioned earlier, it's very much about staying ahead of the regulations, which are becoming stricter. And by being transparent now, SMEs can stay ahead of the game, avoiding any future legal issues and ensuring smooth operations. But these are the benefits, but I understand it's not always easy, to implement transparency and traceability in supply chains.
Right. So understanding some of these benefits, including increasing efficiency, managing some of the risk, would certainly help to push the case for adoption amongst our SMEs. But like you said, there's definitely challenges. So that at the same time, we know that our SMEs constantly face challenges like limited resources and capacity. So what could be some of the practical steps to get them started on this journey?
Yeah, it's not always easy, but there are some measures which can be taken, right, to adopt systemic approaches and, where possible, integrate technology for efficient tracking of products. So maybe firstly, I would invite SMEs to start collaborating closely with their suppliers, ensuring that they can provide detailed information about the origins of raw materials. And this can take the shape of calling someone up, sending emails, without necessary, very advanced technology. Alternatively, there are also software solutions which are designed for supply chain management to help streamline this process. So there is also the option of adopting technology. And some businesses may find it interesting to invest in barcode or RFID tagging systems to enable products to be uniquely identified and tracked throughout the production and distribution process. And with this information, right, either based on making phone calls to ask where you're sourcing your products, who are your suppliers, this can be done by telephone, by email, explaining the rationale behind this, you can ultimately create a comprehensive digital map of your supply chain. And you can showcase every step from raw material to the end consumer. So these are some of the aspects that can be put in place. And this can take time, right? And I would invite SMEs to, even if they're not able to map their entire supply chain, even if they have a bit of visibility on some of their following tiers of the suppliers that they source from, it's already a huge advantage. So they can start, step by step.
Great. So I think it's all about taking the first step out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So finally, if you could share some success stories of SMEs that actually benefited from adopting product traceability and also supply chain transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. One great example was a small online store I worked with in the past, which specialized in eco-friendly home products. And what they did is that they implemented product traceability, and they were able to identify the origins of the sustainable materials they were sourcing, and they ensured this information and the authenticity of the information to their customers. And with this supply chain transparency, they managed to establish direct relationships with their suppliers. And this not only enhanced the quality of the products, but it also allowed them to share the stories with the customers, building trust and loyalty. And this was something that was fairly easy to do because the supply chain did not involve a large number of intermediaries or actors. There were only one or two levels in the supply chain. So it was very easy for them to go right to the source of the product. And there was also a similar good example I remember from a small fashion retailer that was operating online, and they adopted also a supply chain transparency tools, and they mapped out their entire supply chain and the production journey from raw materials to the finished product. And there again, with this transparency information, it empowered them to make informed decisions, to reduce waste and streamline their process. And they discovered that by showcasing their transparent supply chain to consumers, they attracted eco-conscious consumers who appreciated the effort, which led to increased sales and a positive brand image. So I think that in these two cases, the implementation of product traceability and supply chain transparency showcases also that it's not just for large corporations, right? It can also be done for small businesses in the e-commerce industry in a fairly straightforward fashion.
That's great. Thanks, Greg. I certainly hope these examples will encourage more SMEs to take on the first step. With evolving markets and consumer expectations, achieving a sustainable supply chain may no longer just be a choice, but a necessity for businesses. We hope that by embracing these principles, our partners can create a positive impact on the environment, society, and also their bottom line. To our valued audience, we hope you have enjoyed today's conversation. Please remember to stay tuned for the upcoming episode of the Lazada Sustainability Academy. Bye.
Thanks, bye.